The radio crackled with urgency across the Afghan mountainside. Negative on the shot command. Target is beyond effective range. Sergeant Marcus Rivera's voice cut through the static as he lowered his binoculars. 2 miles away, through the shimmering heat waves of the Kandahar desert, a high-value target was about to slip away forever. The mission was collapsing. That's when Private Elena Vasquez stepped forward with her rifle. "Sir, I can make that shot." Rivera turned, his weathered face etched with disbelief. "Vasquez, that's an impossible distance. Don't even think about it." But Elena had already calculated the wind speed, the bullet drop, and the rotation of the Earth itself. What happened next would rewrite the record books and change military history forever. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. The first thing you need to understand about Elena Vasquez is that she wasn't supposed to be there. Growing up in the dusty streets of El Paso, Texas, the daughter of a mechanic and a school cafeteria worker, military service seemed like her only ticket out. But even then, the Army had different plans for her than she had for herself. Elena's father, Miguel, had taught her to shoot when she was 8 years old. Every Sunday after church, they'd drive out to the desert with his old .22 rifle and a bag of empty beer cans. "Neva," he'd say in his gravelly voice, "shooting isn't about the gun. It's about becoming one with the bullet's journey." She didn't understand what he meant then, but she could hit those cans from 100 yards, while other kids her age couldn't tie their shoes properly. By 14, Elena was winning junior competitions across Texas. Her bedroom wall displayed more marksmanship certificates than most professional shooters accumulated in their entire careers. But her mother, Carmen, worried constantly. "This isn't a life for a young woman," she'd whisper to Miguel during their late-night kitchen conversations. "She needs to focus on school, on normal things." Normal was never in Elena's vocabulary. While her classmates at Jefferson High School gossiped about boys and weekend parties, Elena spent her afternoons at the local shooting range, working part-time to pay for ammunition and range time. The owner, a Vietnam veteran named Bill Henderson, had never seen anything like her natural ability. "Kid," Bill told her one afternoon as she consistently struck targets at 800 yards, "you've got something special. This isn't just skill, this is a gift." Elena's dark eyes narrowed as she adjusted her scope. "Gifts don't mean anything without work, Mr. Henderson." She was 17 then, already understanding that talent without dedication was worthless. The Army recruiter, Staff Sergeant James Powell, showed up at Jefferson High during her senior year. He wasn't there for Elena specifically, just the usual pitch to graduates with limited options. But when he heard about the quiet girl who'd set every marksmanship record in the state, his interest piqued immediately. "Have you considered military service, Miss Vasquez?" Powell asked during their brief meeting in the school counselor's office. Elena's response was immediate and firm. "I want to be a sniper." Powell nearly choked on his coffee. Female snipers were rare, and the military bureaucracy wasn't exactly progressive about combat roles for women in 2008. "Well," Powell recovered, "we have excellent opportunities in military intelligence, medical corps, logistics. Double quotes. Elena's expression didn't change. "I didn't ask about opportunities, Sergeant. I told you what I want to do," the steel in her voice reminded Powell of the best soldiers he'd ever served with. Basic training at Fort Leonard Wood was Elena's first real test. She'd expected the physical challenges, the endless runs, the obstacle courses, the drill sergeants screaming in her face. What she hadn't anticipated was the constant battle to prove herself worthy of the same respect given automatically to her male counterparts. Drill Sergeant Anthony Walker made her life particularly difficult. Not out of malice, but from a misguided belief that crushing her spirit would either make her stronger or convince her to quit. "Vasquez," he'd bellow across the training grounds, "drop and give me 50. Maybe that'll teach you this ain't summer camp." Elena never complained, never showed weakness, never gave Walker the satisfaction of seeing her struggle. While other recruits collapsed from exhaustion during 20-mile marchers, Elena maintained perfect posture and cadence. During weapons training, she consistently outshot every recruit in her platoon, then helped struggling teammates improve their accuracy during off hours. The breaking point came during Week 8 of basic training. The platoon was conducting night navigation exercises in the Missouri woods when Private Danny Morrison became separated from his unit. As hours passed and temperatures dropped toward freezing, the training exercise became a real emergency. Elena volunteered for the search party, despite Walker's initial refusal. "This is serious business, Vasquez. We need experienced personnel." Elena's jaw tightened. "With respect, Drill Sergeant, I've been hunting these woods since I was 12. I know how to track." It was a lie. She'd never been to Missouri before, but her confidence was absolute. 6 hours later, Elena found Morrison unconscious in a ravine 2 miles from base camp. He'd fallen and suffered a concussion, hypothermia setting in rapidly. Elena didn't hesitate. She stripped off her own jacket, wrapped Morrison in it, and carried him on her back through the darkness to safety. The 180-pound recruit felt like nothing compared to the deer she'd carried out of the Texas desert as a teenager. Walker's attitude changed completely after that night. During the remaining weeks of basic training, he pushed Elena harder than anyone else, not to break her, but to forge her into the weapon he recognized she could become. "Vasquez," he told her the day before graduation, "you've got the heart of a warrior. Don't let anyone tell you different." Advanced individual training at Fort Benning was where Elena's true journey began. The Army had finally agreed to let her pursue marksmanship training, though they stopped short of guaranteeing sniper school. Her instructor, Master Sergeant David Chun, was a legend, a man who'd made impossible shots in Iraq and Afghanistan, with more confirmed kills than most snipers achieved in multiple deployments. Chen was skeptical when Elena arrived. Not because she was a woman, but because her reputation had preceded her, and he'd seen too many naturally talented shooters fail when the stakes became real. "Marksmanship," he explained during her first day, "is only about 30% of what we do. The rest is patience, intelligence gathering, camouflage, and most importantly, the mental strength to take a human life when necessary." Elena absorbed every lesson like a sponge. She learned to calculate wind speed by watching grass move half a mile away. She mastered the art of remaining motionless for hours, controlling her breathing and heartbeat to avoid detection. She studied ballistics until she could predict bullet trajectory in her sleep, but the real test came during live-fire exercises with human-shaped targets. While other trainees struggled with the psychological transition from paper bullseyes to realistic silhouettes, Elena's shots remained perfectly centered. Chun noticed her unusual calm during these sessions. "How do you do it, Vasquez?" he asked one afternoon after she'd achieved perfect scores on targets representing enemy combatants. Elena's answer revealed the depth of her mental preparation. "I don't see enemies, Sergeant. I see mathematics. Distance, wind resistance, gravity, it's all just physics." Chun realized he was training someone extraordinary. During advanced exercises, Elena consistently outperformed trainees with years more experience. She could calculate complex shots in seconds that took others minutes to figure out. More importantly, she never missed when it mattered. The final exam was a 1,200-yard shot in high winds with multiple obstacles. Elena's target was barely visible through the heat shimmer rising from the Georgia terrain. Other trainees had attempted the shot throughout the week, with only 2 achieving hits within the acceptable margin of error. Elena approached the firing line with her usual quiet confidence. She spent 5 minutes studying the conditions, wind flags, vegetation movement, temperature variations. Then she adjusted her scope with precise, economical movements and settled into her shooting position. The rifle's report echoed across the range. Seconds later, the spotter's voice crackled through the radio. Perfect center mass. Outstanding shot. Vasquez. It wasn't just outstanding, it was the best shot recorded at that range in Fort Benning's history. Chun approached Elena as she secured her weapon. Congratulations, Specialist Vasquez. You're officially recommended for sniper school. Elena's expression remained serious. When do I leave, Master Sergeant? Chun smiled. 2 weeks. But Vasquez? She looked up at her instructor. Sniper school is going to make this training look like kindergarten. You ready for that? Elena's response would become legendary among her instructors. I've been ready my whole life, Sergeant. The question is whether sniper school is ready for me. 2 weeks later, Elena reported to the United States Army Sniper School at Fort Moore. She was one of only 3 women in a class of 47 candidates. The attrition rate was historically brutal. Over 60% of trainees failed to complete the course. Those who survived emerged as some of the most skilled marksmen in the world. The school's commander, Colonel Patricia Hayes, had fought hard to open sniper training to qualified women. Elena represented everything Hayes had argued for: exceptional skill, unshakable determination, and the mental toughness required for one of the military's most demanding roles. Ladies and gentlemen, Hayes addressed the new class during their first formation. You are here because you've demonstrated exceptional marksmanship ability. But that's just the entry fee. Over the next 8 weeks, we're going to test every aspect of your character. Most of you will fail. That's not a prediction, it's a mathematical certainty. Elena listened with the same focused intensity she brought to every challenge. Around her, other candidates shifted nervously or exchanged worried glances. Elena remained perfectly still, already visualizing the challenges ahead and planning her response to each one. The first week eliminated 12 candidates. Physical fitness standards were brutal, but the psychological pressure was worse. Instructors deliberately created stress, confusion, and fatigue to identify candidates who couldn't perform under extreme conditions. Elena thrived. While other trainees cracked under pressure, she became more focused. During night infiltration exercises, she moved through enemy territory like a ghost. Her camouflage techniques were so effective that instructors sometimes couldn't locate her, even when they knew her approximate position. But the real test was still ahead. Week 4 introduced candidates to the longest range shots they'd ever attempted. The school's signature challenge was a 1,800-yard shot across a valley with constantly shifting wind conditions. In the school's 30-year history, only 18 students had successfully completed this shot on their first attempt. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel, it means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Elena would become the 19th. The morning of the 1,800-yard challenge dawned gray and windy across the Georgia hills. Elena had been awake since 04:00 hours, studying weather reports and calculating environmental factors that would affect her shot. While other candidates wolfed down breakfast in the mess hall, she sat alone with her notebook, running mathematical equations that looked more like physics homework than military training. Staff Sergeant Kevin Murphy, the range master, had overseen this particular test for 7 years. He'd watched hundreds of the Army's best marksmen attempt the shot, and the failures far outnumbered the successes. The target was a silhouette roughly the size of a human torso, positioned on a hillside across a valley where crosswinds could shift bullet trajectory by several feet. Vasquez, you're up, Murphy called at 08:30 hours. Elena approached the firing line with her M24 sniper rifle, a weapon she'd customized with personal modifications that pushed its accuracy to the absolute limit. Her shooting partner, Specialist Tommy Rodriguez from San Antonio, served as her spotter. Rodriguez had initially resented being paired with Elena, not because of her gender, but because her reputation made other candidates nervous. Nobody wanted to be the spotter who missed a critical win call for the woman everyone expected to be perfect. But weeks of working together had earned his respect. Elena never blamed her spotter for missed shots, and she consistently helped him improve his own observational skills. Winds gusting from the Kangva, northwest at 12 to 15 miles per hour, Rodriguez reported through his spotting scope. Target appears stable, but there's significant heat shimmer in the valley. Elena nodded, making minute adjustments to her scope's elevation and windage knobs. She'd calculated that at this distance, a 1 mile per hour wind miscalculation could result in a complete miss. Elena settled into her prone position behind the rifle. Her breathing became controlled and rhythmic, a technique she'd perfected during years of meditation her father had taught her alongside marksmanship. In through the nose, out through the mouth, Mia, Miguel's voice echoed in her memory. Let your heartbeat settle between the spaces. Through her scope, the target looked impossibly small. At 1,800 yards, atmospheric conditions created visual distortions that could fool even experienced snipers. Elena had learned to read these distortions like a language, understanding how heat waves, humidity, and elevation changes affected her view of distant targets. Shooter ready, Elena announced. The range fell silent except for wind through the pine trees. Murphy started his stopwatch. Candidates had a maximum of 10 minutes to complete the shot. Though most successful attempts happened within the first 3 minutes, Elena lay motionless for 2 full minutes, studying wind patterns through her scope. She watched grass movement on the hillside, observed how dust swirled in the valley, noted the behavior of birds flying through her bullet's intended path. Every environmental factor became data in her mental calculation. Rodriguez grew nervous as time passed. Other spotters usually provided constant updates and encouragement, but Elena had taught him that excessive communication could disrupt a sniper's concentration. Wind holding steady at 14, he whispered, barely audible. Elena's finger moved to the trigger. Her breathing slowed to an almost meditative rhythm. The rifle seemed to become an extension of her body, perfectly aligned with her target. She felt the subtle pressure of the trigger against her finger, calculated the exact moment between heartbeats when her body would be most stable. The shot broke clean and sharp. The bullet's supersonic crack echoed across the valley as Elena maintained her sight picture, following through perfectly. At 1,800 yards, the bullet would take nearly 2.5 seconds to reach its target, an eternity in shooting terms. Rodriguez tracked the bullets, vapor trail through his spotting scope. Good shot, he muttered, then louder. Hit. Dead center. The target had a perfect hole punched through the silhouette's center mass. Elena had joined the exclusive group of shooters who'd completed the challenge on their first attempt. Murphy approached the firing line as Elena secured her weapon. Outstanding shooting, specialist. That's the best first attempt shot I've seen in 3 years. Elena's response was characteristically modest. Thank you, Staff Sergeant. What's the next qualification? The next qualification was survival. Sniper School's final phase placed candidates in realistic combat scenarios where marksmanship was just one of many skills required for mission success. Elena excelled at stalking exercises, becoming virtually invisible in terrain where other candidates stood out like neon signs. Her ability to remain motionless for hours while maintaining alertness was almost supernatural. During one memorable exercise, Elena spent 14 hours in a camouflaged position just 50 yards from an instructor's observation post. The instructor, Master Sergeant Patricia Williams, searched for Elena with binoculars, thermal imaging, and even walked within 10 feet of her position without detection. When Elena finally revealed herself at the exercise's conclusion, Williams was genuinely startled. How long have you been there, Vasquez? Williams asked. Elena checked her watch. 14 hours, 18 minutes, Master Sergeant. Williams shook her head in amazement. I've been doing this for 12 years, and I've never seen concealment that effective. Where did you learn those techniques? Elena's answer revealed the depth of her preparation. I studied every manual in the base library, Master Sergeant. Then I practiced in different terrain types during leave periods. Urban environments, forests, deserts. Each requires different approaches. Williams realized she was looking at a student who'd gone far beyond required coursework to master her craft. The academic portions of sniper school proved equally challenging. Students learned advanced ballistics, meteorology, target identification, and mission planning. Elena's notebook became a masterpiece of technical knowledge, filled with formulas, range cards, and detailed observations about shooting in various conditions. Her mathematics background, self-taught through years of calculating long-range shots, gave Elena advantages over candidates with formal military education. While others struggled with ballistics calculations, Elena could compute complex trajectories in her head. Instructors began using her work as examples for struggling students, but Elena's most impressive quality was her teaching ability. Despite fierce competition among candidates, Elena regularly helped classmates improve their performance. She tutored candidates struggling with ballistics calculations and shared camouflage, techniques that had taken her years to develop. Specialist Marcus Thompson, a candidate from Detroit who'd been struggling with long-range shots, became one of Elena's regular students during evening study periods. "Vasquez," he said one night after she'd helped him understand wind compensation principles, "you should be an instructor someday. You explain this stuff better than half the sergeants." Elena's response showed her long-term thinking. "Maybe after a few deployments, Thompson. But first, I want to test these skills in real combat situations." Thompson nodded, understanding that Elena viewed sniper school as preparation for something much more significant. The final examination was a comprehensive test combining all skills learned during the 8-week course. Candidates had to successfully stalk within range of enemy positions, gather intelligence, and engage targets at various distances under time pressure. The scenario simulated real combat conditions as closely as possible without actual danger. Elena's final exam began at 0200 hours on a moonless night. She had 6 hours to infiltrate enemy territory, identify high-value targets, and eliminate them without being detected. The enemy consisted of instructors using night vision equipment and thermal imaging to locate candidates. Elena moved through the darkness like a predator. Her camouflage was so effective that thermal imaging barely detected her heat signature. She'd learned to regulate her body temperature and minimize movement patterns that revealed human presence. Years of hunting with her father in the Texas desert had taught her to think like prey, while moving like a predator. 3 hours into the exercise, Elena had successfully stalked to within 300 yards of the primary target building. Her intelligence-gathering phase required photographing specific individuals and documenting security procedures without alerting guards. Elena spent 45 minutes in one position, gathering information while remaining completely invisible. The shooting phase tested everything she'd learned. 5 targets at ranges from 400 to 1,200 yards, all requiring single-shot elimination in specific sequence. Elena had practiced the scenario dozens of times, but simulated stress never matched real pressure. Instructors deliberately created distractions, simulated explosions, radio chatter, and time pressure designed to induce mistakes. Elena's first target was at 1,200 yards, partially concealed behind concrete barriers. The shot required precise calculation of bullet drop and wind compensation. Elena settled into position, calculated environmental factors, and fired. The target fell immediately, perfect center mass hit. Targets 2 through 4 fell in rapid succession, each shot perfectly placed despite increasing time pressure and environmental challenges. Elena's movements between positions were fluid and silent, her camouflage remaining effective throughout the exercise. The final target presented the most difficult challenge. A 600-yard shot through a narrow window opening. with the target visible for only seconds at a time. Elena had one opportunity to make the shot before exercise time expired. Missing would result in automatic failure. Elena calculated the target's movement pattern, timing the appearance intervals. She had approximately 3 seconds when the target would be visible and stationary enough for an accurate shot. The margin for error was essentially zero. The target appeared. Elena's shot was instantaneous, her muscle memory and training taking over conscious thought. The bullet struck perfectly, completing the exercise with 12 minutes to spare. Elena had achieved perfect scores on every phase of the final examination. Colonel Hayes personally conducted Elena's graduation ceremony. In front of the entire class, she presented Elena with the Sniper Qualification Badge, a silver medal featuring crossed rifles that represented membership in one of the military's most exclusive communities, Specialist Vasquez. Hayes announced, "You've not only completed sniper school with the highest scores in this class, but you've set new standards for future students. Your combination of technical skill, tactical knowledge, and mental toughness represents the best of what this program produces." Elena's response was typically understated. "Thank you, Colonel. I'm ready for deployment." Hayes smiled at Elena's directness. "Your orders are already cut, Specialist. You're assigned to the 3rd Infantry Division, deploying to Afghanistan next month. Congratulations and good hunting." 3 weeks later, Elena boarded a military transport aircraft bound for Kandahar Airfield. Her gear included the modified M24 rifle she'd used throughout sniper school, along with specialized equipment that would allow her to engage targets at extreme ranges. She carried herself with quiet confidence, knowing that months of intensive training had prepared her for combat. But Elena couldn't have known that within 6 months, she'd face a situation that would test every skill she'd learned and push her abilities beyond what anyone thought possible. The impossible shot that would make her famous was still waiting in the mountains of Afghanistan, where a routine mission would become the stuff of military legend. The heat hit Elena like a physical blow the moment she stepped off the transport plane at Kandahar Airfield. Even at 0600 hours, the Afghan sun was already pushing temperatures toward triple digits. The mountains surrounding the base shimmered in waves of rising heat that would make long-range shooting exponentially more difficult than anything she'd experienced in Georgia. Captain Sarah Mitchell, Elena's new commanding officer, greeted her at the airfield with a mixture of curiosity and skepticism. Mitchell had heard about the sniper school graduate with perfect scores, but Afghanistan had a way of humbling even the most promising soldiers. Combat was different from training, and the Taliban weren't paper targets. "Welcome to paradise, Vasquez," Mitchell said with dark humor as they walked toward the base operations center. "Hope you brought sunscreen and patience. Out here, we measure success in days without casualties, not marksmanship medals." Elena nodded respectfully, understanding that she'd have to prove herself all over again in this unforgiving environment. Elena's first assignment was with Bravo Company, 2nd Battalion, operating from Forward Operating Base Wolverine in the Kandahar province. The base was a collection of concrete bunkers, prefabricated buildings, and defensive positions carved into a hillside that overlooked the Arghandab River Valley. Enemy activity in the region had increased significantly over the past 6 months. Her new squad leader, Staff Sergeant Jake Morrison, was a veteran of 3 combat deployments who'd seen too many replacements arrive with big reputations and small survival instincts. Morrison's job was keeping his soldiers alive, which meant being skeptical of anyone who hadn't proven themselves under fire. "Vasquez," Morrison explained during Elena's first briefing, "I don't care what you did in sniper school. Out here, the enemy shoots back, and they know this terrain better than we ever will. Your fancy shooting means nothing if you can't operate as part of a team." Elena absorbed the criticism without defensiveness, recognizing wisdom in Morrison's harsh assessment. Elena's first week at FOB Wolverine was spent learning operational procedures and studying intelligence reports about enemy movements in their sector. The Taliban fighters they faced weren't undisciplined militiamen. Many had years of combat experience and sophisticated understanding of American tactics. They used the mountainous terrain expertly, appearing and disappearing like ghosts. Her spotter assignment was Corporal Daniel Park, a Korean-American soldier from Los Angeles who'd been in country for 4 months. Park had worked with 2 previous snipers, both of whom had been wounded and evacuated before completing their deployments. He approached his partnership with Elena cautiously, understanding that sniper teams had extremely high casualty rates. "Listen, Vasquez," Park confided during one of their first planning sessions. "I'm not trying to be negative, but this sector eats sniper teams alive. The Taliban know we use overwatch positions, and they've gotten really good at finding us." Elena appreciated Park's honesty, recognizing that his caution came from experience, not cowardice. Elena's first combat mission was a routine patrol through the village of Kalat, located 5 miles south of Phobe Wolverine. Intelligence reports suggested Taliban fighters were using the village as a staging area for attacks on coalition forces. Elena and Park would provide overwatch from elevated positions, while infantry squads searched buildings and questioned residents. The mission began at 0300 hours, with Elena's team moving to their overwatch position under cover of darkness. Elena had spent hours studying satellite imagery of the area, identifying potential shooting positions and escape routes. Her preparation was meticulous: range cards for every possible target area, environmental calculations for different times of day, and contingency plans for various scenarios. Elena and Park established their position on a ridgeline, 800 yards from Kalit's main street. Through her rifle scope, Elena could observe the entire village while remaining invisible to anyone below. Her camouflage was perfect, blending seamlessly with the rocky terrain and sparse vegetation that characterized this part of Afghanistan. Patrol proceeded without incident for the first 2 hours. Village residents went about their morning routines, while American soldiers conducted their searches with practiced efficiency. Elena maintained constant vigilance through her scope, watching for any signs of enemy activity or potential threats to the patrol below. At 0847 hours, Elena spotted movement in a compound on the village's eastern edge. A figure appeared briefly on a rooftop, carrying what appeared to be an AK-47 rifle. Elena tracked the individual through her scope while Park confirmed the observation through his spotting equipment. "Possible hostile eastern compound," Elena whispered into her radio. "Individual with weapon on rooftop, approximately 600 yards from patrol's current position." The response from the patrol leader was immediate. "Can you confirm hostile intent?" Elena continued observing the figure, who was now moving along the rooftop while maintaining concealment from the patrol below. Through her scope, she could see the individual positioning himself for what appeared to be an ambush of American soldiers. The tactical situation was clear. This was an enemy combatant preparing to engage friendly forces. "Confirmed hostile intent," Elena reported. "Target is maneuvering for ambush position." The patrol leader's response crackled through her earpiece. "You are cleared to engage if you have a clear shot." Elena's heart rate remained steady as she prepared for her first combat engagement. The target was partially concealed behind a low wall, presenting a difficult shot even at 600 yards. Elena calculated wind speed, temperature effects, and elevation differences while maintaining her sight picture. The mathematical precision that had made her legendary in training now became life or death calculation. Elena controlled her breathing and settled into her shooting position. Through her scope, she could see the enemy fighter raising his rifle toward the American patrol below. There was no more time for calculation. The shot had to be taken immediately to prevent American casualties. Rifle's report echoed across the valley as Elena's bullet traveled toward its target. At 600 yards, the flight time was just over half a second. Elena maintained her sight picture, watching as her bullet struck the enemy fighter center mass. The threat was eliminated instantly. "Target down," Park confirmed through his spotting scope. The patrol below took immediate cover, scanning for additional threats while Elena continued providing overwatch. Radio chatter increased as the patrol leader coordinated response. To the sniper engagement, Elena felt no emotion about her first combat kill. Her training had prepared her mentally for this moment, understanding that enemy elimination was a mathematical necessity rather than a personal conflict. The Taliban fighter had posed an immediate threat to American lives, and Elena had solved that equation with precision. The patrol extracted from Kalat without further incident, but Elena's reputation spread quickly through Fob Wolverine. Word of the new sniper who'd eliminated a threat with one shot at 600 yards reached every unit on the base within hours. Morrison's skepticism began transforming into cautious respect. Elena's second combat engagement occurred 3 days later during a convoy escort mission. American supply trucks were traveling through a mountain pass known for Taliban ambushes, and Elena's team provided overwatch from elevated positions along the route. Intelligence suggested enemy fighters were planning a coordinated attack using improvised explosive devices and small arms fire. The convoy consisted of 8 vehicles carrying supplies and personnel between FOB Wolverine and a smaller outpost 15 miles to the north. Elena positioned herself on a ridgeline that provided observation of a 3-mile stretch of road where previous attacks had occurred. Her elevated position allowed engagement of targets at ranges exceeding 1,000 yards. At 13:20 hours, Elena detected movement in rocky terrain overlooking the convoy route. Through her scope, she could see multiple individuals carrying weapons and what appeared to be a heavy machine gun. The enemy fighters were positioning themselves for a coordinated ambush that would devastate the American convoy. Multiple hostiles. Grid reference 314,159, Elena reported. Count of 6 individuals with small arms and crew-served weapon. Range 1,200 yards. The convoy commander responded immediately. "Can you engage?" Elena studied the tactical situation through her scope. The enemy fighters were partially concealed among large boulders, presenting challenging targets at extreme range. Environmental conditions included significant heat shimmer and cross winds that would affect bullet trajectory. This was exactly the type of shot that separated trained snipers from exceptional ones. "Affirmative," Elena responded. Engaging primary threat, she selected the enemy machine gunner as her priority target, understanding that the crew-served weapon posed the greatest danger to the convoy below. The shot would be at the absolute limit of her rifle's effective range, requiring perfect calculation and execution. Elena spent 30 seconds calculating environmental factors and adjusting her scope. Wind speed was variable, shifting between 8 and 12 miles per hour from different directions. Temperature effects would cause significant bullet drop at 1,200 yards. The target was moving intermittently, requiring precise timing. Elena's shot broke clean and true. The bullet's flight time at that range was nearly 2 seconds long, enough for experienced enemy fighters to hear the rifle's report and take evasive action. But Elena's calculation was perfect. The bullet struck the machine gunner's center mass, eliminating the primary threat instantly. The remaining enemy fighters scattered for cover, abandoning their ambush position as Elena continued engaging targets. Her second shot eliminated another fighter at 1,150 yards, while her third shot wounded a third individual who was attempting to retrieve the abandoned machine. Gun. Park provided outstanding spotting support throughout the engagement, calling corrections and tracking targets as Elena systematically eliminated the enemy threat. Within 4 minutes, the ambush had been completely disrupted, allowing the convoy to pass through the danger area without casualties. Outstanding shooting. Wolverine 6, the convoy commander radioed. Threat eliminated. Convoy proceeding to destination. Elena acknowledged the transmission while continuing to scan for additional enemy activity. Her vigilance remained constant until the convoy reached safety at the northern outpost. Elena's third significant engagement established her reputation as one of the most effective snipers in the region. During a complex operation targeting a high-value Taliban commander, Elena provided precision fire support that allowed American forces to capture their objective without friendly casualties. Operation required Elena to engage multiple targets at varying ranges while American Special Operations Forces conducted a raid on a Taliban compound. Her shooting positions changed 3 times during the 6-hour operation, requiring rapid movement and immediate re-engagement of enemy fighters. Elena's final shot of that operation was her most challenging yet. A 1,400-yard engagement against an enemy sniper who was targeting American forces from a concealed position. The counter-sniper shot required Elena to locate a nearly invisible target and engage him before he could eliminate American soldiers. Using advanced optics and her developing understanding of enemy tactics, Elena identified the hostile sniper's position through minute environmental disturbances, a barely visible muzzle flash, reflection, and slight vegetation movement that revealed human presence. Her shot eliminated the threat with surgical precision. By the end of her first month in Afghanistan, Elena had 15 confirmed kills and numerous assists that had prevented American casualties. Her reputation extended beyond Phoebe Wolverine to other units throughout the region. Requests for sniper support specifically mentioned Elena by name, but Elena's greatest challenge was still approaching. Intelligence reports indicated that a high-value Taliban commander was planning a major offensive against coalition forces. The operation to eliminate this threat would require Elena to attempt the longest combat shot in military history, a shot so challenging that experienced snipers considered it impossible. Staff Sergeant Morrison approached Elena after receiving the classified briefing about the upcoming mission. "Vasquez," he said quietly, "what I'm about to tell you doesn't leave this tent. We've got intelligence on Mahmoud al-Rashid, one of the most wanted Taliban commanders in Afghanistan. But there's a problem. The only way to get him is with a shot that nobody thinks is possible." Elena looked up from cleaning her rifle. "What's the distance, Staff Sergeant?" Morrison's answer would change military history. 2 miles, Vasquez. 2 miles through mountain air with variable winds and extreme elevation changes. Command thinks it's impossible, but they're asking anyway. Elena's response was immediate and confident. "When do we leave?" The mission briefing took place in a secured communications tent at FOB Wolverine, where classified information could be discussed without risk of enemy interception. Major Robert Castellanos, the battalion intelligence officer, had flown in specifically for this operation. The stakes were higher than anything Elena had encountered during her previous engagements. "Mahmoud al-Rashid," Major Castellanos began, projecting a photograph onto the tent's canvas wall, "is responsible for coordinating attacks that have killed 47 American soldiers over the past 18 months. He's been our #1 priority target, but he's extremely cautious about exposure to coalition forces." Elena studied the photograph intently. Al-Rashid appeared to be in his 40s, with intelligent eyes and the weathered appearance of someone who'd spent years fighting in Afghanistan's harsh environment. Intelligence reports described him as a former Afghan army officer who defected to the Taliban after the American invasion. "Our sources indicate Al-Rashid will be conducting a planning meeting tomorrow at a compound in the Spin Boldak district," Castellanos continued. "The location is in a valley surrounded by mountains, making conventional assault extremely difficult. Airstrikes are not viable due to civilian presence in the area." Captain Mitchell leaned forward in her chair. "What about direct action raids?" "Special Operations Forces have successfully targeted high-value individuals in similar terrain." Castellanos shook his head grimly. The compound is heavily fortified and defended by experienced fighters. Ground assault would result in significant casualties, and al-Rashid would likely escape during the fighting. Elena had been studying topographical maps of the target area throughout the briefing. The terrain was incredibly challenging: steep mountains, deep valleys, and atmospheric conditions that would make precision shooting extremely difficult. But she could see possibilities that others might miss. "Major," Elena interrupted respectfully, "what's the longest line of sight to the target compound?" Castellanos consulted his charts before responding. "Approximately 3,400 meters from the highest ridgeline to the northwest." "But specialist, that's over 2 miles through mountain air with severe elevation changes." The tent fell silent as everyone processed the implications of Elena's question. Staff Sergeant Morrison was the first to speak. "Vasquez, nobody's ever made a successful combat shot at that distance. The ballistics alone would be nearly impossible to calculate accurately." Elena's response revealed the depth of her preparation and confidence. "Staff Sergeant, I've been studying extreme long-range ballistics since arriving in country. The mathematical principles are the same regardless of distance. It's just a matter of more precise calculation and environmental compensation." Major Castellanos looked skeptical. "Specialist, even if the ballistics were perfect, there are dozens of variables that could affect bullet trajectory over that distance. Wind speed variations, temperature changes, humidity fluctuations. Any one of those factors could result in a complete miss." Elena had anticipated these objections and had already formulated her response. "Sir, I understand the challenges, but I believe the shot is mathematically feasible. I'd need detailed meteorological data, precise range measurements, and probably multiple days for environmental observation. But it's possible." Captain Mitchell studied Elena carefully. She'd watched Elena's performance over the past month and understood that the young sniper didn't make claims she couldn't support. "Vasquez, assuming you could make the shot, what would you need for mission success?" Elena's answer demonstrated her strategic thinking. A forward observation position for real-time environmental monitoring, backup extraction routes, and most importantly, a spotter with advanced meteorological equipment. Park is excellent, but this mission would require specialized gear we don't currently have. Major Castellanos made several notes before responding. "Specialist, I can get you the meteorological equipment and whatever other technical support you need. But I have to ask, are you absolutely confident you can make this shot? Because if you miss, al-Rashid will disappear, and we might not get another opportunity." Elena's confidence was absolute. "Sir, give me the right equipment and accurate intelligence, and I'll eliminate the target." The conviction in her voice convinced everyone present that she truly believed the impossible shot was achievable. The next 36 hours were spent in intensive preparation. Elena worked with meteorological specialists to understand weather patterns in the target area. She studied satellite imagery to identify potential shooting positions and calculate exact ranges. Most importantly, she spent hours running ballistics calculations that accounted for every conceivable variable. Corporal Park proved invaluable during the preparation phase. His experience with forward observation techniques and ability to read environmental conditions made him the ideal spotter for such a challenging mission. Park spent hours studying the target area, memorizing terrain features and potential complications. "Vasquez," Park said during one of their planning sessions, "I've been thinking about this shot, and there's something we need to consider. At that range, bullet flight time will be over 4 seconds. If the target moves even slightly during that time, we'll miss completely." Elena had already considered this challenge and developed a solution. "That's why we need to study al-Rashid's behavioral patterns. According to intelligence reports, he conducts meetings in a very structured manner. If we can predict when he'll be stationary, we can time the shot accordingly." Elena's preparation also included physical conditioning specifically designed for the mission. The shooting position would require her to remain motionless for potentially hours while maintaining perfect stability. She practiced extended shooting positions until she could hold steady aim for over an hour without fatigue. The night before the mission, Elena received a visit from Sergeant First Class Amanda Torres, a master sniper who'd served 3 combat deployments and held several military marksmanship records. Torres had heard about Elena's planned shot and wanted to offer advice from her experience. "Vasquez," Torres said quietly, "I've made shots that people said were impossible. But what you're attempting tomorrow is beyond anything attempted in combat. Are you sure you want to risk your reputation on something this extreme?" Elena's response showed her maturity and understanding of the mission's importance. "Sergeant, this isn't about my reputation. Al-Rashid's planning an offensive that could kill dozens of American soldiers. If there's even a small chance I can prevent that, I have to try." Torres nodded approvingly. "That's the right mindset, specialist. But remember, if conditions aren't perfect, don't take the shot. No target is worth compromising your team's safety." Elena appreciated Torres's wisdom and promised to abort the mission if environmental conditions made success impossible. The infiltration began at 200 hours, with Elena's team moving toward their observation position under cover of complete darkness. The movement required 6 hours of careful navigation through mountainous terrain, climbing nearly 2,000 feet in elevation while carrying specialized equipment and maintaining noise discipline. Elena and Park established their position on a rocky outcrop that provided unobstructed line of sight to the target compound. The elevation difference between their position and the target was over 800 feet, requiring complex ballistics calculations that few snipers had ever attempted in combat. Through her scope, Elena could see the compound clearly despite the extreme distance. The buildings appeared tiny, and individual human figures were barely visible even with maximum magnification. This would be precision shooting at its absolute limit, requiring perfect technique and favorable conditions. Park began meteorological observations at 0830 hours, recording wind speeds, temperature variations, and humidity levels at their position. But Elena realized that environmental conditions could be completely different in the valley below, adding another layer of complexity to the shot calculation. At 0945 hours, Elena spotted movement in the compound's main courtyard. Through her scope, she could see several individuals gathering for what appeared to be the planned meeting. Intelligence reports had been accurate. Al-Rashid was maintaining his predicted schedule. Elena spent the next hour observing behavioral patterns and timing movements. Al-Rashid appeared punctually at 10:47 hours, recognizable from intelligence photographs despite the extreme distance. He moved in predictable patterns, standing in specific locations for measured periods during his briefings. "Target confirmed," Elena whispered to Park. "Al-Rashid is in the compound, conducting meetings as predicted," Park acknowledged while continuing his environmental monitoring. Wind conditions were challenging but not prohibitive, variable speeds between 6 and 10 miles per hour with occasional gusts up to 15. Elena began her final ballistics calculations, incorporating all environmental data Park had collected. The mathematics were incredibly complex, requiring her to account for Coriolis effects, air density variations, temperature gradients, and multiple wind speed changes along the bullet's flight path. At 11:34 hours, Elena was ready for the shot. Al-Rashid was standing in the compound's courtyard, briefing subordinates in a predictable pattern that gave Elena a 4-second window when he would be completely stationary. The environmental conditions were as favorable as they would get. Elena settled into her shooting position and controlled her breathing. Through her scope, Al-Rashid looked impossibly small, barely a dot against the compound's buildings. The crosshairs covered his entire body, even at maximum magnification, making precise shot placement extremely difficult. Range confirmed at 3,427 meters, Park whispered. Wind from the northwest at 8 to 12 miles per hour. Temperature 47 degrees Celsius. Humidity 32%. Elena acknowledged the information while making final scope adjustments. Elena's finger moved to the trigger as Al-Rashid entered his predicted position. Her breathing slowed to an almost meditative rhythm, and her heartbeat seemed to synchronize with the weapon's stability. This was the moment that would define her career and potentially save countless American lives. Shot broke clean and perfect. The rifle's report echoed across the mountains as Elena maintained her sight picture, knowing that the bullet would take over 4 seconds to reach its target. At that distance, even a slight miscalculation would result in a complete miss. Park tracked the bullet's vapor trail through his spotting scope, watching as it arced across the valley toward the distant compound. The ballistics were so extreme that the bullet reached maximum altitude halfway through its flight, then descended steeply toward the target area. Time, Elena whispered, counting seconds in her head. At 3.5 seconds, she could see through her scope that Al-Rashid was still in position, unaware that death was traveling toward him at supersonic speed. At 4.2 seconds, the bullet found its mark. Hit. Park exclaimed through his spotting scope. Perfect center mass. Target down. Elena maintained her observation, watching as chaos erupted in the compound below. Al-Rashid's bodyguards scattered for cover while other individuals rushed to the fallen commander's position. Elena had made military history with a 3,427-meter shot that eliminated one of America's most wanted enemies. The impossible had become reality through mathematical precision, technological superiority, and unwavering determination. But Elena's expression remained calm and professional as she prepared for extraction. Target eliminated, Elena reported through her radio. Requesting immediate extraction. The response from command was immediate and enthusiastic. Outstanding work. Wolverine 6. Extraction team en route to your position. As Elena and Park prepared to leave their observation position, Park looked at his partner with amazement. Vasquez, do you realize what you just accomplished? That's the longest combat shot in military history. Elena's response showed her characteristic modesty. It's just mathematics. Park. Complex mathematics, but still just math. The extraction proceeded without incident, and Elena's team returned to FOB Wolverine to debrief and congratulations from throughout the chain of command. Word of the impossible shot spread rapidly through military communications, reaching the highest levels of command within hours. But for Elena, the mission's success was measured not in records or recognition, but in the American lives that would be saved by Al-Rashid's elimination. The Taliban commander's planned offensive died with him, preventing attacks that could have killed dozens of coalition soldiers. Sergeant Marcus Rivera, who had initially doubted Elena's ability to make the shot, approached her during the post-mission debriefing. Vasquez, he said with genuine respect, I owe you an apology. When you said you could make that shot, I thought it was impossible. I was wrong. Elena's response revealed her understanding of leadership and teamwork. Sergeant, you were right to be skeptical. Impossible shots should be questioned. But sometimes, when American lives are at stake, we have to attempt the impossible and trust in our training to make it possible. The aftermath of Elena's impossible shot created immediate and far-reaching consequences throughout the theater of operations. Within hours of Al-Rashid's elimination, intercepted Taliban communications revealed panic among enemy leadership. Their most effective commander had been eliminated by what they described as ghost fire from the mountains, a shot so distant that no muzzle flash or shooter position had been observed. General Patricia Hawkins, commander of coalition forces in southern Afghanistan, personally flew to FOB Wolverine to debrief Elena about the mission. Hawkins was a seasoned combat veteran who'd risen through the ranks during decades of military service. and she understood the strategic implications of Elena's achievement better than most. Specialist Vasquez, General Hawkins began during their private meeting. Your shot yesterday didn't just eliminate a high-value target. It fundamentally changed enemy perceptions about American capabilities. Taliban commanders are now afraid to conduct meetings in areas they previously considered safe. Elena listened respectfully while maintaining her characteristic modesty. General, I was fortunate to have excellent intelligence, perfect weather conditions, and outstanding support from my spotter. The mission's success was a team effort. Hawkins smiled at Elena's deflection of personal credit, recognizing the leadership qualities that made exceptional soldiers. The Pentagon's reaction was immediate and unprecedented. Within 48 hours, Elena received orders to report to Bagram Airfield for meetings with senior military officials who wanted to understand how such an extraordinary shot had been accomplished. The implications for future military operations were staggering. Colonel James Patterson, Chief of Staff for Special Operations in Afghanistan, conducted Elena's initial debrief at Bagram. Patterson had overseen hundreds of high-value target missions, but none had achieved success through such extreme means. He needed to determine whether Elena's accomplishment was reproducible or simply an unrepeatable combination of skill and luck. Specialists, Patterson explained, we need to understand every aspect of your preparation and execution. If your techniques can be taught to other snipers, it could revolutionize how we conduct precision elimination missions. Elena nodded, understanding that her knowledge could potentially save many American lives. Elena spent 3 days at Bagram, working with ballistics experts, meteorologists, and tactical planners to document her methods. She explained her calculation techniques, environmental monitoring procedures, and the specialized equipment modifications that had made this shot possible. Every detail was recorded for future training programs. Dr. Michael Chun, a civilian ballistics consultant, was particularly impressed by Elena's mathematical approach to extreme-range shooting. Specialist Vasquez, Dr. Chun observed, your calculations account for variables that most snipers never consider. You've essentially created a new methodology for precision shooting at unprecedented distances. Elena's response revealed her continuous pursuit of improvement. Dr. Chun, mathematics is just the foundation. The real breakthrough was learning to read environmental conditions across extended distances. I spent months studying how weather patterns behave in mountainous terrain, and that knowledge was crucial for mission success. The debriefing sessions also revealed that Elena had been developing her extreme-range techniques independently for months before the Al-Rashid mission. She'd been testing theories during off-duty periods, using practice rounds to verify calculations at progressively longer distances. Her success wasn't accidental. It was the result of systematic experimentation and refinement. Master Sergeant Victoria Lopez, the Army's chief marksmanship instructor, participated in Elena's technical debrief via video conference from Fort Benning. Lopez was responsible for updating sniper training curricula based on combat lessons learned, and Elena's techniques represented a quantum leap in capability. Vasquez, Lopez said during their session, I want you to know that your methods are already being incorporated into our advanced sniper course. Future students will study your Al-Rashid engagement as the gold standard for extreme-range precision shooting. Elena felt honored that her techniques would help train the next generation of military snipers, but Elena's fame brought unexpected complications. News of the record-breaking shot had reached media outlets, despite military attempts to maintain operational security. While specific details remained classified, reports of an impossible sniper shot in Afghanistan began circulating among military enthusiasts and defense journalists. Captain Mitchell briefed Elena about the media attention during a secure phone call. Vasquez, your shot has attracted international attention. Several news organizations are requesting interviews, and there's significant interest from military historians. How do you want to handle this? Elena's response was immediate and firm. Ma'am, I'm not interested in personal publicity. If media attention helps highlight the capabilities of American military personnel, I'm supportive. But I don't want to be portrayed as some kind of superhero. I'm just a soldier doing my job. The Taliban's reaction to al-Rashid's elimination was swift and revealing. Intercepted communications showed that enemy commanders had modified their operational procedures specifically to counter American long-range shooting capabilities. They began conducting meetings in underground facilities and avoided outdoor exposure. In areas with extended sightlines, intelligence analysts realized that Elena's shot had created a psychological warfare effect that extended far beyond the elimination of a single target. Enemy forces throughout Afghanistan were now operating under the assumption that American snipers could engage targets at previously unimaginable distances. Lieutenant Colonel David Rodriguez, the battalion intelligence officer, explained the strategic implications to Elena during her return to FOB Wolverine. Vasquez, your shot has changed how the Taliban operates throughout this region. They're afraid to expose themselves in ways they never worried about before. That's saving American lives every day. Elena returned to normal operations at FOB Wolverine, but her reputation had transformed relationships with fellow soldiers. Younger troops sought her advice about marksmanship techniques, while experienced veterans treated her with newfound respect. Elena handled the attention gracefully, always crediting teamwork and preparation over individual skill. Corporal Park, Elena's spotter during the Al-Rashid mission, found himself elevated to near-celebrity status among forward observers. His precise environmental calculations and spotting accuracy had been crucial to the mission's success, and other spotters wanted to learn his techniques. Vasquez, Park confided during one of their routine patrols, "This attention is getting weird. Guys are treating me like I'm some kind of expert, but I was just doing my job." "You're the one who made the impossible shot." Elena smiled at Park's discomfort, understanding his feelings perfectly. Elena's next significant mission came 3 weeks after the Al-Rashid elimination. Intelligence had identified another high-value target, and commanders specifically requested Elena's involvement despite the mission requiring conventional assault techniques rather than long-range shooting. The target was Abdul Hakim, a Taliban bomb maker responsible for improvised explosive devices that had killed 13 American soldiers. Hakim operated from a compound in the Helmand province, surrounded by experienced fighters and sophisticated defensive preparations. This mission would test Elena's versatility beyond pure marksmanship. Elena's role involved providing precision overwatch during a direct action raid conducted by Army Rangers. Her responsibility was eliminating specific threats that could compromise the assault team's approach or extraction. The shooting distances were relatively short, 400 to 800 meters, but the tactical complexity was extreme. The mission briefing revealed that Hakim's compound included multiple defensive positions, hidden weapons caches, and escape tunnels that could allow the target to evade capture. Elena would need to adapt her shooting positions rapidly while coordinating with assault elements and air support. Staff Sergeant Morrison, now completely confident in Elena's abilities, assigned her the mission's most challenging shots. "Vasquez," Morrison explained, "we need you to neutralize the compound's overwatch positions before the Rangers begin their assault. These won't be easy shots. The enemy knows we're coming." Elena studied the target compound through satellite imagery and drone surveillance, identifying enemy positions and calculating engagement angles. Unlike her previous missions, this operation would involve multiple rapid shots at different targets, rather than a single precision engagement. The night of the mission, Elena positioned herself on a hillside overlooking Hakim's compound. Through her scope, she could observe enemy sentries moving between defensive positions. The Taliban fighters appeared alert and well prepared. suggesting they'd received warning about the impending attack. At 0347 hours, Elena received authorization to begin eliminating enemy overwatch positions. Her first target was a machine gun nest positioned to cover the compound's main approach route. The shot was 620 meters through darkness, requiring precise use of night vision equipment. Elena's shot eliminated the machine gunner instantly, allowing the Ranger assault team to advance without taking fire from that position. Her second shot neutralized a sniper positioned in a tower overlooking the compound's courtyard. Both shots were fired within 30 seconds, demonstrating Elena's ability to engage multiple targets rapidly. The Ranger's assault proceeded smoothly thanks to Elena's suppression of enemy overwatch positions. Abdul Hakim was captured alive after a brief firefight, along with valuable intelligence materials that revealed other bomb-making operations throughout the region. During the mission debrief, the Ranger team leader specifically praised Elena's contribution to the operation's success. "Vasquez's precision fire support was critical to our mission accomplishment. She eliminated threats that could have resulted in significant friendly casualties." Elena's reputation continued growing throughout the regional command structure. Unit commanders began requesting her support for increasingly complex missions, recognizing that her capabilities extended far beyond conventional sniper operations. She became a strategic asset whose presence could determine mission success. But Elena's most significant contribution during this period wasn't a combat engagement. It was her role in training other snipers. Between missions, Elena worked with newly arrived marksmen, sharing techniques and knowledge that elevated the entire unit's shooting capabilities. Specialist Robert Turner, a recent sniper school graduate, became one of Elena's regular students. Turner had excellent fundamental skills, but lacked the advanced techniques necessary for extreme range shooting. Elena's mentorship transformed his capabilities dramatically. Turner, Elena explained during one of their training sessions, "Long-range shooting isn't about having perfect equipment or ideal conditions. It's about understanding how to adapt your techniques to whatever situation you encounter. Flexibility is more important than raw accuracy." Elena's teaching methods emphasized understanding rather than memorization. She helped students develop an intuitive grasp of ballistics principles, environmental effects, and tactical applications. Her students consistently achieved higher scores than troops trained through conventional methods. The Army's senior leadership took notice of Elena's teaching abilities. Plans were developed to reassign her to the sniper school at Fort Moore after completing her combat deployment, where she could train future generations of military marksmen using techniques proven in combat. But Elena's deployment wasn't finished yet. Intelligence reports indicated that Taliban forces were planning a major offensive designed to recapture territory lost after al-Rashid's elimination. The enemy was importing fighters and equipment from Pakistan, preparing for battles that could determine control of entire provinces. Elena's role in the coming operations would test every skill she'd developed during months of combat. The Taliban had adapted their tactics specifically to counter American sniper capabilities, using Elena's own success against al-Rashid as a case study for defensive planning. Stage was set for Elena's greatest challenge yet, a series of engagements where the enemy knew her capabilities and had prepared countermeasures designed to neutralize her effectiveness. The hunter was about to become the hunted, in operations that would determine whether Elena's legendary skills could overcome determined enemy adaptation. The Taliban spring offensive began with coordinated attacks across 3 provinces, demonstrating tactical sophistication that surprised coalition intelligence analysts. Enemy forces had spent months studying American sniper tactics, specifically developing countermeasures designed to neutralize long-range shooting advantages. They knew Elena was coming. The first indication of enemy adaptation appeared during a reconnaissance mission near Sangin, where Elena's team encountered Taliban fighters using advanced camouflage techniques and decoy positions. The enemy had learned to operate in ways that minimized exposure to precision fire, moving in small groups through covered routes and avoiding predictable patterns. Intelligence Officer Captain Lisa Hayes briefed Elena on the tactical changes observed throughout the region. Vasquez, they're specifically countering sniper operations, underground meeting facilities, rapid movement protocols, and most concerning, they're importing counter-sniper specialists from Chechnya and Iraq who understand our methods. Elena absorbed this information with professional interest rather than concern. Adaptation was natural in warfare, and enemy countermeasures simply required evolving her own techniques. "Ma'am, what's our intelligence on their counter-sniper capabilities?" Hayes's response was sobering. They have at least 3 confirmed expert marksmen with combat experience against Western forces. They're hunting specifically for you. The psychological warfare was deliberate. Taliban propaganda broadcasts mentioned the American ghost shooter and offered substantial rewards for information leading to Elena's capture or elimination. The enemy understood that neutralizing Elena would have strategic impact beyond removing a single soldier. Elena's first encounter with enemy counter-snipers occurred during Operation Desert Storm, a complex mission targeting Taliban supply routes through the Korangal Valley. Her team occupied overwatch positions while infantry units interdicted enemy convoys moving weapons and personnel from Pakistan. Through her scope, Elena observed a convoy of 6 vehicles moving through the valley below. Standard procedure would involve engaging the lead and trailing vehicles to immobilize the convoy, then systematically eliminating armed personnel. But something felt wrong about the tactical situation. "Park, does this convoy seem unusual to you?" Elena whispered to her spotter. Park studied the vehicles through his optics before responding. "Yeah, they're moving too confidently for a route they know we monitor. And those vehicles look like they have additional armor plating." Elena's instincts proved correct. The convoy was bait, designed to draw American snipers into engagement while hidden counter-snipers eliminated them. As Elena prepared to engage the convoy, muzzle flashes erupted from concealed positions 800 meters to her east. Enemy marksmen had been waiting in ambush. Bullets cracked past Elena's position as she rolled away from her original firing point. The enemy had calculated her most likely shooting position based on terrain analysis and previous engagement patterns. Their preparation was thorough and professionally executed. Elena's survival depended on techniques that went beyond pure marksmanship. She used micro-terrain features to mask movement, employed misdirection to confuse enemy spotters, and relied on superior camouflage to break contact without revealing her actual position. The enemy knew her capabilities, but they didn't know her adaptability. Counter-sniper warfare became a deadly chess match played across miles of mountainous terrain. Elena would establish false positions to draw enemy fire, then relocate to engage from unexpected angles. Her mathematical precision remained crucial, but tactical deception became equally important for survival. The breakthrough came during her third counter-sniper engagement, when Elena realized the enemy was using her own reputation against her. Taliban marksmen positioned themselves at ranges exceeding 1,500 meters, knowing that Elena's legendary shooting ability would tempt her into attempting extreme distance shots that revealed her position. Instead of falling into the trap, Elena closed distance using advanced stalking techniques learned during sniper school. She approached within 400 meters of enemy positions, while inside their psychological comfort zone, then engaged with rapid precision that gave them no opportunity to return accurate fire. Target eliminated. 400 meters northeast, Elena reported after eliminating a Chechen sniper who'd been terrorizing coalition forces for weeks. The enemy marksman had been so focused on watching distant ridgelines that he'd missed Elena's approach through close terrain. Elena's tactical evolution demonstrated intellectual flexibility that separated exceptional soldiers from merely skilled ones. When enemies adapted to her methods, she developed new approaches that rendered their preparations obsolete. The hunter remained ahead of those hunting her. Her final mission in Afghanistan came during Operation Enduring Thunder, a large-scale offensive designed to clear Taliban forces from the Kunar province. Elena's role involved providing precision fire support during multi-battalion operations that would determine territorial control for months to come. The mission's complexity required Elena to coordinate with multiple units across a battlefield spanning dozens of square miles. Her shots would need to support infantry assaults, protect helicopter landing zones, and eliminate high-value targets as opportunities developed. This was warfare at its most demanding level. Elena established her primary position on a mountain peak that provided observation of the entire battle area. From this vantage point, she could engage targets throughout the operational zone while coordinating with ground commanders via radio. The responsibility was enormous. Hundreds of American lives depended on her precision. The battle began at dawn with coordinated attacks across multiple objectives. Elena's first shot supported an infantry assault on a fortified compound, eliminating machine gun positions that threatened advancing soldiers. Her shooting was clinical and effective, each bullet solving tactical problems that could have cost American lives. As the battle progressed, Elena faced her most challenging target yet, an enemy sniper positioned in a mosque minaret who was killing American soldiers with methodical precision. The tactical situation required eliminating the threat without damaging the religious structure. A shot demanding absolute accuracy at 1,200 meters. Elena studied the target through her scope, calculating the precise angle needed to eliminate the enemy marksman while avoiding structural damage to the mosque. The shot would need to pass through a window opening barely 2 feet wide, requiring perfect execution under combat stress. One shot, one solution, Elena whispered, settling into her firing position. The bullet flew true, eliminating the enemy sniper instantly while leaving the mosque undamaged. American casualties dropped immediately as the most dangerous threat was neutralized. Elena's performance during Operation Enduring Thunder established her as one of the most effective combat soldiers in modern military history. Her confirmed kill count exceeded 40 enemy combatants, with numerous assists that had prevented American casualties during critical operations, but statistics couldn't capture Elena's most important contribution, the psychological impact of her presence on both friendly and enemy forces. American soldiers fought with greater confidence knowing Elena provided overwatch, while Taliban fighters operated under constant fear of precision elimination from impossible distances. Elena's deployment ended 3 weeks after Operation Enduring Thunder, but her legend continued growing throughout the military community. Her techniques were studied at service academies, her equipment modifications became standard issue, and her tactical innovations influenced sniper training worldwide. During her farewell ceremony at FOB Wolverine, General Hawkins presented Elena with the Silver Star, recognizing valor in combat that had saved countless American lives. The citation specifically mentioned her extraordinary heroism and professional competence in eliminating high-value targets under extreme conditions. Elena's response to the recognition was characteristically humble. "General, this medal represents the efforts of every soldier who supported my missions. My spotter, my team leaders, my intelligence analysts, their contributions made success possible. I just pulled the trigger." But Elena's military career was far from over. Her reassignment to Fort Moore as a sniper instructor would allow her to share combat-proven techniques with future generations of marksmen. Her classroom would produce snipers whose capabilities exceeded anything previously achieved in military training. Elena's first lecture to advanced sniper students began with a simple statement that encapsulated her philosophy. "Gentlemen, ladies, precision shooting is mathematics applied under stress. Master the math, control the stress, and impossible shots become routine calculations. The legacy of Elena's impossible shot extended far beyond military applications. Defense contractors studied her equipment modifications, ballistics researchers analyzed her calculation methods, and tactical planners incorporated her techniques into doctrine that would influence warfare for decades. Years later, military historians would identify Elena's 3,427-meter shot as a pivotal moment that demonstrated American technological and human superiority during the Afghanistan conflict. The elimination of Mahmoud al-Rashid prevented attacks that could have killed hundreds of coalition personnel and changed the war's trajectory. Elena continued serving with distinction, eventually achieving the rank of Master Sergeant and becoming the Army's premier authority on extreme-range precision shooting. Her students deployed worldwide, carrying her techniques and philosophy to conflicts across the globe. But Elena never forgot the lesson that defined her career. Impossible shots weren't about individual heroism or exceptional equipment. They were about preparation, teamwork, and mathematical precision applied when American lives hung in the balance. The sergeant who once ordered, "Don't let her shoot," had been proven spectacularly wrong, and Elena's impossible shot had become military legend. Up next, you've got two more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hits the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.